Esselamu aleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatüh. Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters, friends of my life, friends of my heart,
Allah'a sonsuz hamd ve şükrederiz ki
I thank and praise Allah Ta'ala countless times that one more time we are all together at a discourse to talk about Allah Ta'ala.
hepinizi çok ama çok seviyorum.
I love you all very, very much.
Bir yeri var.
You have all different place in my heart.
Hepiniz bizim için çok kıymetlisiniz.
Each and every one of you are very, very important for me.
Hepiniz Allah'a ulaşmayı dilediniz.
You all made the wish to reach Allah,
Allah halleder,
and Allah takes care of the rest, of course,
kendisine ulaştırır.
and certainly delivers your spirit back to Himself.
Ruhunuz Allah'ın üfürdüğü ruh.
As you know, the spirit is the spirit that is blown into you by Allah.
Biz istesek de istemesek de ruhumuz mutlaka Allah'a geri dönecek.
And either we like it or not, our spirit will return back to Allah.
Allah'a
If we wish, we make the request to render the spirit back to Allah as we are still living the life of this world, and we take a pledge of allegiance to our Murshid, and our spirit leaves the physical body with that pledge of allegiance, and it goes through seven of the heavens towards Allah. At the seventh of the heavens goes through seven worlds and completes its journey.
zatına ulaşır,
And it reaches Allah Himself,
zatında
and it disappears in Allah.
işte Allah'ın bizlere üfürdüğü ruh böylece gene
At that point, spirit that Allah blown into us again returned back to Allah as its true owner, as it is submitted back to Allah.
sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
bu bir farz emirdir.
this is an obligatory command of Allah
Allah'a ulaştırılması.
to render the spirit back to Allah as we are still living the life of this world. Allah Ta'ala says, "Irji ila bi rabbike."
Geri dön diyor. Yani
Return
dönerek
back to your Lord. In other words,
ulaş diyor.
returning back, reach your Lord, says Allah Ta'ala.
İnsanlar için eninde sonunda mutlaka gerçekleşecek olan bir husus.
And that is a concept that will take place as a human being.
Alternatif var.
Sooner or later, it will return back to Allah. There are two alternatives. One,
Allah'a ulaştırabilmek.
to be able to render the spirit back to Allah as we are still living the life of this world, which is an obligatory command of Allah.
Böyle bir şeyin yapılmadığını düşünelim.
But let's imagine we didn't fulfill that.
Allah'ın emrinde değiller ki.
Not every human being is within the command of Allah.
Islah etmedikleri için.
Some of them do not cleanse their souls and they remain within the command of Satan.
Şeytana tapanlar
Some part, on the other hand, are the ones who worship Satan. There are people who worship Satan, my dear brothers and sisters.
öyleyse sevgili kardeşlerim.
Hence, my dear brothers and sisters,
Ne kadar hamd etsek, yüklesek az.
it's not enough how much we thank and praise Allah Ta'ala that we fulfilled our submissions.
Ruhumuzu teslim etmişiz Allah'a.
As I have submitted my spirit back to Allah,
Fizik vücudumuzu teslim ettik.
then my physical body,
Sonra nefsimizi teslim
then my
ettik.
soul,
Sonra irademizi.
then my free will.
Hepinizin bu mertebelerin hepsini aşmanızı ve ruhunuzu da ve içinizi de yani
As I wish you all to go through these stages and submit your spirits, physical bodies, souls, and free wills to Allah,
hepimizden.
I request that from the Almighty.
Allah'ın yardımıyla hepsi
With the help of Allah,
mümkündür.
they are all possible.
Gayret ederseniz
And if you work on it,
bunları sırayla Allah'ın yardımıyla
you can fulfill these within their order with the help of Allah indeed.
Allah'a ulaşmayı dilemek, Allah'a ulaşmanın garantisidir.
To make the wish to reach Allah is the guarantee of reaching Allah. Whomever makes the wish to reach Allah, as Allah Ta'ala says, whomever wishes to reach me, I deliver them to myself.
Bu sebeple kim Allah'a ulaşmayı dilerse,
Therefore, whomever makes the wish to reach Allah,
sözden asla caymaz.
Allah never breaks His promise.
%100 mutlak olarak
Allah
yerine getirir.
100% fulfills His promises and keeps His word. It is not possible for Allah not to fulfill His promise.
Bütün insanların, cinlerin,
He is the creator of all human beings, all jinn. He is the Lord of entire universe. It is Allah who created the universe.
dünyamız bu kainatta bir
Our
noktadır.
planet is only a point within the universe.
Biz insanlar
Within such a point, as we praise Allah, we are living as human beings.
kim bilir
God knows at what point of the universe, God knows how many human beings are still living.
eminiz.
We are certain that they do,
Dünyamızda değil,
not only within our planet, but in many planets, there is clear life.
en azından bizim aldığımız cevap, Rabbimize sorarak aldığımız cevap,
At least the result, the answer I received as I asked the Almighty is
var.
that there are so many other planets within the universe and there are human beings living in those planets.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
her şey öylesine güzel ki
actually everything is so wonderful.
Teala'nın bir büyük nimeti,
To live is a great blessing of Allah,
inançlı insanlar için.
especially for those who have faith.
Allah'a inanıyorsa
If the individual believes in Allah,
onun bir meşgalesi vardır.
that individual is busy with something.
Vardır.
Something is occupying that individual. And what is that?
Teslim etmek.
To submit the spirit back to Allah. Let's say the individual fulfilled that.
Allah'a fizik vücudunu teslim
The individual will be still busy, then will submit physical body. He did, it is not the end. To submit the soul, he fulfilled that, but it's still not the end. To also submit the free will to Allah.
önce Tevrat'la
These were all given first with
sonra da
Torah, then Bible, then
Kur'an-ı
with the
Kerim'de
Quran,
insanlığa Allah Teala tarafından bildirilmiş
as they are the prescriptions given to human beings through Allah's command, and that is the command of Allah.
incelemeler onu gösterdi ki
My dear brothers and sisters, our research proves that within the Torah,
Kur'an'da da
Bible, and the Quran there are 7 stages and 4 submissions.
yer almıştır.
They are clearly intact.
Allah'a
One,
ulaşmak dilemek
To make the wish to reach Allah.
önce Tevrat'ta yer almış,
First it was in the Torah, then it was in the Bible,
Kerim'de yer almış.
and finally it was in the Quran.
Mürşide
2.
tabiyet
To take a pledge of allegiance to a murshid, to a religious leader. Along with pledge of allegiance, spirit to leave the physical body, and to reach Allah is the 3rd stage.
sonra fizik vücudun teslimi gibi.
Then submission of physical body, then submission of soul, 5.
6 muhlis
6
olmak,
is to become a muhlis one, a pure one, and 7 to also submit free will to Allah and to complete the submissions.
İşte eskiler demişlermişmiş ki ruh vücuttan ayrılır.
Well, some people say that, well, the old-timers were saying that if the spirit leaves, you die. Well, right now, a dead individual is talking to you right now, according to them.
Yıllar evvel
Many years ago,
tabiyetimizi gerçekleştirmişiz.
I had taken a pledge of allegiance, and our spirit had left the physical body,
Biz de gayret etmişiz ama aslında
also with my work, but it is actually Allah who delivered the spirit back to Himself.
kişilerden olmuşuz.
And I became one of those whose spirit was back with Allah as I thank and praise Allah for that.
Allah
And was that enough for me? Not at all.
öyle bir uzatmış ki
As Allah offered His helping hand to me in a way that I also submitted my physical body to Allah with His help, also submitted my soul to Allah with the help of Allah again,
irademizi de
and also submitted my free will to Allah
Rabbimizin,
with the help of the Almighty again.
biz netice itibariyle bir insanız.
Consequently, I'm only a human being.
Olmasaydı
If there was no help of Allah,
gerçekleştiremez.
I couldn't be able to fulfill any of these.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
Allah ile olan ilişkilerimizde
therefore in our relations with Allah,
eğer Allah'ın emrettiği biçimde tahakkuk ettirmek
if we are willing to fulfill the commands as the commands of Allah, if we are willing to make those
Allah'ın emirlerine
take place in our life, then we have to obey the commands of Allah.
ruhunuzu bana teslim edin diyor.
Allah Ta'ala says, submit your spirit to me, 1.
Vücudunuzu teslim edin.
Submit your physical body to me, 2.
Nefsinizi bana teslim
Submit your soul to me, 3.
edin. İradenizi de
Submit your free will to me as well, 4.
ve Allah Teala bu teslimleri yaparken
As we are fulfilling these submissions,
olarak büyük ölçüde yardım edecektir.
Allah Ta'ala will help you all tremendously.
Allah Teala bize yardım ettiği için biz ruhumuzu ve içimizi
Since Allah helped me, I was able to submit my spirit, physical body, soul, and free will to Allah.
bunu hiçbir
Without the help of Allah, I could have never fulfilled that.
için aynı şey söz konusu.
And it is exactly the same for every individual.
Yardımı kesindir.
And Allah's help is certain. Why is it certain? Because Allah Ta'ala clearly says,
Bana
whomever wishes to reach me,
ben
I deliver them to myself.
yani bana ulaşmayı dileyen kişi
In other words,
gayretiyle
those who are wishing to reach me,
gayret ederek
they cannot reach me with their own work, working on it night and day.
ben ona yardım ederim.
Allah Ta'ala says, I help them,
Ve
and
ruhunu bana.
so easily they submit the spirit back to me.
Fizik vücudun teslimi bir dik yokuş olabilir mi?
Well, could the submission of physical body be a steep hill? Yes, indeed,
Olmasına oluyor.
because it requires more zikr.
O zikri gerçekleştirmeden
Without fulfilling that zikr,
Allah'a teslim edemez.
nobody can submit physical body to Allah.
Yani bir günün %60'ını zikirle geçirmesi lazım kişinin.
In other words, the individual has to spend 60% of the day in zikr.
Daha %80'ini.
Even 80%.
Bu %80'e ulaştıktan sonra daimi zikre ulaşmak artık
After getting to 80% zikr, it is not difficult to get into continuous zikr then.
Allah
Individual who gets into continuous zikr also submits soul to Allah.
önce ruhun teslimi,
First, submission of spirit, then submission of physical body,
nefsin.
then submission of soul.
Bunlar teslim olunca
Once they are all submitted,
teslim olur.
and the soul can only be submitted with continuous zikr,
Kişinin iradesini de
and next stage of continuous zikr is submission of soul and purification process. And these are the submissions of spirit, physical body, soul, and free will to Allah, which are the 4 submissions altogether.
sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters, friends of my life, friends of my heart,
Allah Teala'nın bu baptaki emri
Allah's command in that regard is very clear. Allah Ta'ala says you have to submit your spirit, your physical body, your soul, and your free will back to me before you die.
öyleyse bunları gerçekleştirmek bir insan için neyi ifade eder?
And what does it mean for an individual to fulfill these?
İfade eder.
Well, it means happiness and joy.
Kim mutlu olmak istemez ki?
Who wouldn't like to be happy? Everybody is willing to be happy. That is for sure.
Hayatın temel hedefidir bu.
That is the basic reason of life.
Kendini bildiğinden sonraki devirde neyin ne olduğunu anladığı noktadan itibaren
As soon as people start realizing right from wrong,
bunları gerçekleştirmeyi hedef iddia eder.
then makes the decision to fulfill these submissions.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
en çok kızdığı insanlar ruhlarını da
those people that Satan is most upset with are those who submitted their spirits, physical bodies, souls, and free wills to Allah,
onlara örnek olanlardır.
and therefore who are exemplary individuals to other people. Satans are extremely upset with these kind of people.
Allah'a ulaşmasını
Satan also tried to prevent them from reaching Allah with total submission,
başaramamıştır.
but he couldn't succeed doing it.
Onlar ruhlarını Allah'a teslim etmekle kalmamışlar.
They didn't remain
Ne arttırmaya
with
devam etmişler.
submitting their spirits to Allah, but continued
Vücutlarını Allah'a
increasing their zikr. They submitted their
nefslerini Allah'a teslim
physical body to Allah with 80% zikr, and with 100% they submitted their free will to Allah, and after a while with continuous zikr, they also submitted their free wills to Allah.
Mesela mutluluk, daha çok mutluluk, daha çok mutluluk, daha çok mutluluk diye ruhun ve için nefsin ve iradenin
Allah Ta'ala prescribes happiness, more happiness, more happiness, more happiness, which are 4 phases of happiness with submission of spirit, physical body, soul, and free will. The most important part of your life are the submissions, my dear brothers and sisters.
Allah Teala'ya
You need to submit to Allah. Submission to Allah.
eğer teslim olursanız
If you submit,
söyleyeceksiniz.
then you will sing the same song.
Her şey çok mu güzel?
Is everything so wonderful,
Bana mı öyle?
or is it only me feeling this way?
Neden bu şarkı?
Why this song?
Çünkü nefsinizin kalbinde afetler kalmayınca
Because when there are no more vices in your soul's heart,
bütün faktörler devre dışı kalacaktır.
then you will eliminate all factors that could bother you.
İblis vardır.
Because behind all those factors
Şeytan.
is Satan.
Dileği nedir? Dileği
And what does he want?
bütün insanları
Well, his will
kendisiyle beraber
is to take all human beings to hell along with himself,
cehenneme mahkum etmektir.
to destine them to hellfire as well.
Bütün insanlara Allah'a ulaşmayı, dilemeyi bir.
And Allah Ta'ala wants all people to go to heaven after making the wish to reach Allah, to take a pledge of allegiance to a murshid 2,
3.
to submit spirit to Allah 3, to submit physical body to Allah 4, to submit soul to Allah 5, to become a muhlis, pure one 6, and to submit free will to Allah 7. And therefore Allah obligates all these 7 stages upon every individual for that reason.
Hangi ölçüde gerçekleştirebilirse bir insan
And whatever the level the individual can fulfill these 7 stages, that will be the level of that individual's happiness and joy.
mutluluk bütün insanlar için hedeftir.
Happiness is an ideal, a purpose for every individual.
Göre ulaşmasını
And Allah Ta'ala commands everyone to get to these purposes, these ideals.
gelince
When it comes to people's happiness and joy,
ulaşmayı dilediği anda
as soon as the individual makes the wish to reach Allah, happiness and joy starts for that individual.
mutlu günlerini ruhun ulaştırıncaya kadar geçirdiği 7-8 aylık devrede yaşar.
Maybe the individual will be the happiest till the spirit returns back to Allah, which is 7 to 8 months. What do I mean by that? Well, whomever makes the wish to reach Allah, what is the command of Allah? And what is the explanation of Allah? Allah Ta'ala says, whomever wishes to reach me, I deliver them to myself. Since that's what Allah states,
Allah'a ulaşmayı dileyen kişinin ruhunu Allah kendisine ulaştırır.
it is Allah who delivers the spirit of the individual who is willing to render the spirit back to Allah.
Ruhunu o Allah'a ulaştırmış gibi
And just like that individual delivered the spirit back to Allah, Allah rewards that individual. Yet it is not the individual who delivered the spirit back to Allah.
o kişinin ruhunu
It is actually Allah who delivered the spirit back to himself.
kişi ne yapmıştır?
What is it that the individual had done?
Allah'a ulaşmayı
The individual only made the wish to render the spirit back to Allah. And what was Allah's promise?
bana ulaşmayı
Whomever wishes to reach me,
hayatını yaşarken
whoever wishes to render the spirit back to me as they are still living the life of this world,
ben onu kendime
I deliver that spirit back to myself. That's what Allah Ta'ala says.
işte sevgili kardeşlerim
My dear brothers and sisters, friends of my life, friends of my heart,
Allah Teala'nın bu baptaki hedefi açık ve kesin.
Allah's purpose with that is very clear. Allah Ta'ala says, I'll make it so easy for you. You will only make a wish.
Ya Rabbi diyeceksiniz.
You will say, Almighty Allah, I'm willing to render my spirit back to you.
Kendisinin ermiş evliyandan
I'm willing to become a saint of yours who reached you before death,
birisi olmak istiyorum.
a friend of yours whose spirit is back to you before death.
Ruhumu sana ulaştırarak
Make my spirit return back to you and make me one of those friends of yours who reached back to you. I'm willing to reach you.
böyle bir dileğin kalpten olması kaydıyla
If that wish is from the heart,
kabul edilmemesi
it is not possible not to be accepted by Allah. Why it is not possible not to be accepted?
herkes ruhu
Because Allah Ta'ala wants everyone to render the spirit back to Allah, at least
Allah'a ulaşmak
to make that wish to reach Allah
katına
and to be entitled to the first heaven.
mürşidine tabi olacaktır.
If the individual keeps living, will take a pledge of allegiance to a murshid, to a religious guide.
Bir devre içinde
And right after that, within 7 to 8 months, Allah will deliver that spirit back to Himself.
bunun sağlanması istikametinde o kişinin zikrini
And in order to fulfill that, Allah Ta'ala will help the individual to increase his or her zikr.
Allah sağlayan
Allah will provide that individual to love Allah more.
Allah'ı daha çok sevdiği zaman
As the individual will love Allah more, will increase zikr more.
neticede
And consequently,
8 aylık bir
within 7 to 8 months,
kişinin ruhu
the spirit will return back to Allah.
biliyorsunuz ki bir insanın ruhunun
As you all know,
ulaşabilmesi
a spirit to be able to return back to Allah
Allah'a doğru yola çıkan kafilenin içinde
is based on the spirit of the individual to join the group of spirits and to go through first, second, third, fourth, fifth,
ve 7.
sixth, and seventh of the heavens all together.
Allah'ın zatına ulaşması söz konusu olacaktır.
And after that journey, it will reach Allah.
Gök katı
It will go through 7 of the heavens.
Sidretil Münteha'ya ulaşılacak.
Spirits will get to Sidratil Muntaha. From Sidratil Muntaha with a vertical journey, it will reach Allah.
Allah illiğindedir.
Allah is at Illin.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
dostlarım,
friends of my life,
gönül dostlarım,
friends of my heart,
ne görüyoruz?
What is it that we see?
Görüyoruz ki
Well, what we see is that
bütün insanları bir hedefe yönlendirmiştir.
Allah Ta'ala created all people for a purpose,
Mutluluktur.
and that purpose is joy and happiness.
Bütün insanların mutlu olmasını mutlak olarak ister.
Allah Ta'ala certainly wants everyone to be happy and joyous.
Çünkü en çok yarattıklarının içinde sevdiği mahluk insandır.
Because amongst his creatures, the most beloved ones are the human beings.
Mutlu olabilmesi için
And for the human beings to be able to happy and joyous,
dilemesi lazım.
individuals have to make the wish to reach Allah before death.
Allah Teala
Only if they wish, then Allah will deliver their spirits back to Himself.
kanununu böyle koymuş.
That's how Allah set forth His rule.
Teala isteseydi dilemeyen kişiyi de kendisine ulaştırır.
Otherwise, if Allah willed,
Ama kanun
He could have delivered those who didn't wish
kanunu
as well.
olarak
But He has a rule,
uygular.
and He certainly
Allah
applies His rules. That is Allah,
hepimizin sahibidir.
owner of us all.
Hepimize hakim olandır.
He is the ruler of all.
Bizim ne yapmamız lazım?
Then what do we have to do?
Rabbimizi, Yüce Rabbimizi, Allahu Teala ve Tekaddes Hazretlerini sevmemiz.
Therefore, we have to love Allah. We need to
Ona
fall in love with Allah. Then we need to admire Allah at the end.
vesile.
These are the purposes we need to go through.
Öyleyse dünyada en mutlu insanlar Allah'a,
Therefore, those people who are the happiest in the world are those who admire Allah.
fizik vücutlarında
They are also the ones who submitted their spirits, physical bodies, souls, and free wills to Allah before death.
sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
her şey öylesine güzel.
everything is so fantastic.
Bu güzellikleri yaşayan bir insanın
An individual who goes through these beautiful notions,
Allah'a aşık olmaması daha güzel.
it is not possible for them not to fall in love with Allah, and those who go through higher level of notions, it is not possible for them not to admire Allah.
O Allah'tır.
That is Allah,
Yarattığı mahluk.
and amongst His creatures,
En çok sevdiği insandır.
Allah loves the human beings the most,
Onları
and His purpose for those human beings
mutluluğa ulaştırmak.
is to deliver them to happiness and joy.
İşte mutluluk iki ayrı bölümde tecelli eder.
And happiness takes place in two different parts. One
Bu dünya
is the happiness
üzerinde
of the life
Allah'a ulaşmayı
within this planet Earth. Whomever makes the wish to reach Allah before death,
nefsinin kalbini başlangıçtaki %2 rahmet nuruna
Allah certainly changes the soul's heart of the individual, first 2% mercy, then 7 times 7% virtues,
ilave ederek o kişinin
putting all these glories of Allah in the soul's heart of the individual makes sure more than half of that soul's heart is filled with His glories, which is 51%. That is half of the world happiness.
Allah Teala bu noktaya herkesi ulaştıracağını vaat etmiş.
And Allah Ta'ala promises to deliver everyone to that point, saying that whomever wishes to reach me, I deliver them to myself.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
Allah Teala'nın kendisine ulaştırdığı bir insan
individual who is delivered to Allah by Allah Himself,
51
that individual soul's heart has 51% glories, 7 times 7% virtues, which is 49%,
bu kişi %2'de
and the individual also receives 2% mercy, rahmah,
49 artı 2
49 plus 2 equals to 51. The soul's heart of the individual has 51% glories of Allah.
bu yarı yarıya mutluluktur.
That is halfway of a happiness.
Ama kişi yoluna devam ederse
But if the individual carries on the path of Allah,
gayretine göre
and based on the efforts of the individual,
mutlaka ulaşır.
the individual will certainly be able to do 80% zikr every day. If the individual is persevering, then the individual will certainly get to that point and do zikr 80% a day.
Nurlarla dolan bir insan fizik vücudunu
If the individual has 80% glories in the soul's heart, that individual's physical body submits to Allah.
o kişinin daimi zikre ulaşması
And submission of soul takes place with continuous zikr,
ayaktayken de oturur.
where the individual will be doing zikr of Allah when standing, sitting, and lying on the sides. That's also the command of Allah.
O kişi
Meaning of that is,
uykuya dalarken
when the individual is falling to sleep,
alıp yatacaktır.
will be facing Qibla on their right hand side, as he will be sleeping on his right hand side.
Gelecektir.
Right ear will be on the pillow facing Qibla and will hear
Bu şekilde atışlarını duyacaktır.
the heartbeats in his ear.
Bu sesin duyuluşunda
Every time he hears his ear with
Allah
double beat, he is going to say Allah, Allah, Allah,
diyecektir.
Allah,
Ve bunu
and will fall to sleep repeating the name of Allah based on his heartbeats without using his lips or tongue,
sesiyle söyleyecektir.
as he will be using his inner voice.
İşte bunu usul haline getirebilen bir insan
Individual who can make it a habit,
epeyce uğraşmayı icap ettiren bir
which will require lots of efforts to be able to fulfill this.
mutlaka muhtevasına alır.
It at least requires 7 to 8 months of work.
Bağışı söz konusudur.
But Allah may grant that to certain people.
Daim zikre.
They are the ones who are granted continuous zikr by Allah.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
My dear brothers and sisters,
daim zikir
continuous zikr is a great joy.
her an o kişinin kalbi Allah Teala'dan nur almaktadır.
Constantly, the heart of the individual is receiving the glories of Allah.
Zikreder.
The individual does zikr when he is standing up, when he is sitting down,
Kendi Allah,
and when he is lying on his side.
Allah Teala'nın yen üstü yatarken ifadesini kullanması
As Allah indicates when they are lying on their sides,
gerektiğini
that is a requirement for people to lie on their sides.
eğer yen üstü yatarsa ne olur?
If the individual lies on the side,
Yastıktadır.
the ear will be on the pillow
Mane olarak
as the individual sets the bed.
ve sağ tarafı döner.
When he turns to right, Qibla will be faced, and the right ear is on the pillow. And when the individual moves the ear on the pillow for a while,
Orada
will be able to catch the heartbeats.
kalp bu tarzda atar.
That's how the heart beats in doubles. Allah, Allah, Allah, Allah.
Ve kişi dilini de kımıldatmadan Allah demesini
And the individual will keep saying Allah without using the tongue.
İşte böyle bir dizayn o kişinin Allah'ı kesintisiz bir şekilde
That means the individual is doing zikr of Allah without any interruption.
oluşturur. Bunun adı zikri daimdir.
That is called zikr daim, continuous zikr.
Allah'ın ismini
To repeat the name of Allah constantly without any interruption when the individual is standing, sitting, and lying down.
adım adım bu kişi yanüstü yatmayı usul haline getirir.
That individual made a habit of going to bed on this side, therefore the ear is always on the pillow, and that way the individual catches the heartbeats.
Mutlaka duyar ve de
And with every heartbeat goes Allah, Allah, Allah, Allah.
diye Allah kelimesini tekrar ederek duyuyor.
Goes to sleep repeating the name of Allah,
Sonra dilinde kımıldatmadan
and without using the tongue, he keeps saying the name of Allah.
tekrar eder. Daimi zikrin sahiplerinin ağızlarına bakıldığı zaman
When you take a look at the mouth of the owners of continuous zikr, you realize that their mouth will be slowly moving.
işte sevgili kardeşlerim
My dear brothers and sisters,
Allah'ın istediği
that's exactly what Allah wants from every individual.
kişinin zikri daime yani daimi zikre ulaşması
Individuals to get to continuous zikr and to make that a habit.
sevgili kardeşlerim
My dear brothers and sisters,
biliniz ki Allah Teala sizi insan olarak yarattığı için
you shall know that since Allah created you as a human being, He loves you so much
ki herkes kurtulsun,
and wants everybody's salvation,
Allah'ın cennetine girsin.
wants everyone to make to heaven,
O kadar kolaylaştırmış ki
and made that so
bir tek dileği
easy that one simple wish of an individual, when the individual says from the heart,
ben de
Almighty Allah, I'm willing to render my spirit back to you before death. Please make my spirit return back to you.
o mutlu insanların arasına
Please make me one of those happy people.
ermişlerden olmak istiyorum.
I'm willing to reach you before death.
Hepinizin bildiği gibi ermiş deniyor.
As you know, we call these people who reached Allah.
Nesi ermiş?
They reached Allah through their spirit indeed.
O kişinin ruhunun Allah'a ulaşması
That is, the spirit's returning back to Allah, reaching Allah, makes the individual the one who reached Allah.
bir yüceliktir, mazhariyettir.
And that is a very important point.
Vücudun Allah'a teslim
More than that is submission of physical body to Allah. More than that is submission of soul to Allah. And at the highest point is the submission of free will to Allah.
Allah Teala bu teslimlerin hepsini üzerimize
And Allah Ta'ala obligates all these submissions upon us for us to fulfill them before death.
ne mutlu o farzları gerçekleştiren Allah dostlarına.
How great for those friends of Allah who fulfill these obligations before their death.
Gerçek anlamda bir
Whoever reaches continuous zikr, that is indeed a friend of Allah.
ulaşırsa değil de Allah'ın yardımıyla ulaşırsa
Not if they reach, but if they reach with the help of Allah is a better description.
ulaşırsa diye söylemek.
If it is even better if
Çünkü
Allah
ve
grants them continuous zikr.
hiç kimse
Because without the help of Allah, nobody can get to continuous zikr.
ama Allah sizde o heyecanı
And Allah will give that willing, that excitement into you.
mutlaka ulaşma gayretini gördüğü zaman
If Allah sees that willing in your heart,
o hedefe
will certainly get you to that point Himself.
sevgili kardeşlerim
My dear brothers and sisters,
Allah'ı çok sevmek
to love Allah tremendously should be a purpose for each and every one of you.
hepinizin Allah'a sadece ruhlarını değil
asking you all not to only submit your spirits to Allah, but after that to submit your physical bodies, then your souls, then your free wills to Allah. Asking that from the Almighty, I finish my statements at this point, inshallah. My dear brothers and sisters, we are happy with you. We are in great joy with you. Love you all very, very much. May Allah bless you all.
Esselamu Aleyküm ve Rahmetullah ve Berekatuhu.